This man is attacked by a prison gang, but single-handedly defeats them in a brutal fight. To end the clash, he drops a heavy weight on the gang leader's neck, breaking it. From that moment, no one in the prison dares to challenge him. After enduring 15 years in confinement, he finally regains his freedom. He heads straight into town, has a quick encounter with a barmaid, and takes off with a stolen car. His next stop is Manhattan, where he meets an old acquaintance, Job, a cross-dressing hairstylist. The man doesn't waste time, destroying the computers in Job's office until he gives up the address of Carrie Hopewell. As he leaves, a Ukrainian mobster begins chasing him, firing shots through the busy streets of New York. He narrowly escapes, grabbing a motorcycle and speeding off to Banshee, Pennsylvania. Once in Banshee, he walks into a local bar and has a drink with the bartender, Sugar Bates, a former prize fighter. Two men walk in, clearly there to rob the place, but Lucas Hood, the new sheriff-to-be, has other plans. A violent altercation ensues, leaving both thieves and the sheriff dead. As he and Sugar dispose of the bodies, the man answers Lucas's phone, and in that moment, he decides to take on the sheriff's identity. The new Lucas heads to Carrie's place, discovering she's married to the town's district attorney, Gordon. But there's history between Lucas and Carrie, a past that stretches back before she even arrived in Banshee. He's here for the diamonds they stole from Rabbit, but Carrie pleads with him to leave her and her children in peace. Lucas, unmoved, tells her, "I don't get the girl, I don't get the money. Spent 15 years thinking about today. This isn't how I pictured it." Lucas has Job hack into law enforcement databases to make sure his cover holds up. He then meets with Dan Kendall, the town's young mayor, and gets introduced to the sheriff's deputies, Brock Lotus, who isn't thrilled about Lucas taking the job he wanted, Emmett Yawners and Siobhan Kelly. While out on patrol with Brock, Lucas doesn't hesitate when he spots a group of local thugs, the Moody Boys, picking on a group of Amish men. Just as things are about to escalate,
civilian here.
Kai Proctor, the man who practically owns Banshee, both its criminal and legal sides, shows up and stops the fight. He forces Cole Moody to apologize to one of the Amish men, who turns out to be Kai's estranged father. Later, Kai drags Cole to his slaughterhouse and gives him a brutal lesson in power.
Put him back in your fat, bigoted mouth and get the fuck out of here.
Meanwhile, Job gets grabbed at his salon by the same thugs who'd been chasing Lucas. They want information on him, so Job takes a beating before managing to escape, only to blow up his salon in a fiery exit. Lucas, not wasting time, hits up a local pawn shop. He grabs a safe, along with the championship belt that once belonged to Sugar. Not long after, he's sworn in as sheriff and is invited to a party in his honor at Proctor's place. Away from the crowd, Lucas invites Carrie to open the safe he stole, but she shuts him down cold. As she walks away, Cole Moody, clearly off the rails, comes in swinging, knocking Lucas out from behind. In his drunken rage, he starts shooting up the party and takes aim at Kai. But before Cole can pull the trigger, Lucas, back on his feet, ends the chaos with a single shot. Rabbit's henchman survives the blast at Job's salon and reports back to his boss. Rabbit orders him to find Lucas and Carrie. Lucas's dreams are constantly plagued by memories of Anna. He recalls their secret love affair, especially the last night they spent together, when they stole $10 million worth of diamonds from Mr. Rabbit. Lucas had led the cops away to give Anna a chance to escape, ultimately getting himself locked up for 15 years. The next morning, Lucas interrupts an open house Carrie's hosting, pretending to be a realtor. He pulls her into a room, kisses her, and blurts out that he loves her. Carrie's not having it. She fights him off, kisses him back, then punches him in the face and tells him, "If you really love me, you'll leave and never come back." Meanwhile, Hanson, a drug dealer working for Kai, is getting ready to throw a rave in an Amish farmhouse. Diva's friend Reed, the son of a state senator, drives her and a friend to Hanson's place, where he sells them drugs and invites them to the party. Lucas heads back to the sheriff's office, only to find Brock fuming. He forces Brock to back off, and not long after, Proctor arrives. He warns Lucas that the Moody Boys will be gunning for him after Cole's death. Kai offers to handle it, but Lucas shuts him down cold. Lucas calls Job, who reassures him that his cover is still intact. Later, Kai drops by to see Sugar, who gives him a heads up. Lucas is serious business. That night, the Moody family holds a wake for Cole at the forge. Kat, his widow, notices Lucas helping himself to their food and confronts him. Turns out, she's not all that upset about her husband's death. Two of Cole's brothers come after Lucas with guns drawn, but Lucas isn't fazed. He goads them until Sugar steps in, cooling things down. An Amish elder learns about the rave and notifies the local police. Lucas recognizes the elder's daughter, Rebecca Bowman, as the woman he spent the night with the previous evening, though now she's dressed in Amish attire. The Banshee Sheriff's Department prepares to move in on the rave, a setup by Hanson to sell drugs to local teens. However, the batch of drugs is tainted, and several partygoers, including Reed, start seizing while dancing with Diva. Lucas forces his way into the farmhouse and searches for the man in charge. Hanson notices him and runs, firing a shot in the air to cover his escape. Lucas takes out one of Hanson's men, with Deputy Yawners helping with another, but Hanson manages to flee to Proctor's home. Proctor, unhappy with the chaos caused on his turf, calmly cuts off Hanson's finger with a steak knife, feeds it to his Rottweiler, and gives Hanson a head start. The dog catches up to him quickly, ending his escape. Paramedics are unable to revive Reed, and Lucas takes Diva home, talking to her about the nature of death. Diva runs into her father's arms, while Carrie watches Lucas from above. Carrie sneaks into Mr. Rabbit's New York City apartment. She holds him at gunpoint and offers him a deal. She'll give him the diamonds she stole if he stays away from her and her family. Rabbit counters with an offer of his own. If she delivers Lucas, she'll be free. Carrie knocks him out with a sedative. She kisses him on the cheek and says goodbye, calling him Daddy.
Bye, Daddy.
In Banshee, Proctor works with a Native American tribe leader, Benjamin Longshadow, to set up a mixed martial arts fight. The chief's son, Alex Longshadow, protests. The fighter, Sanchez, spars with the town's Marines at the Kinaho Moon Casino. He tries to get Lucas into the ring, but the sheriff refuses. Lucas is there to speak with Proctor about drugs found on the body of the state senator's son. At the boy's funeral, Lucas runs into the Hopewells. Gordon invites him to dinner. When Carrie and Lucas are left alone, she tells him he has changed. He used to be kind. After being ignored for 15 years, Lucas feels he has every right to be unkind. He storms out of the Hopewell home. He heads to Sugar's bar to drink away his anger. There he sees Rebecca, the Amish girl he slept with before. They sleep together again. Meanwhile, Sugar calls someone, saying that Rebecca has returned. Rebecca walks outside the bar to find her uncle, Kai Proctor, waiting for her. He scolds her for continuing to rebel against her upbringing, just like he did. Later that night, Carrie offers Lucas the diamonds to get him to leave her alone, but he refuses the bribe. At the casino, a waitress arrives at Sanchez's trailer with champagne, fulfilling his request. Between the champagne and cocaine, things escalate quickly, turning dark. Sanchez becomes violent, raping and beating her brutally. Lucas and Siobhan visit the girl at the hospital and are outraged by her injuries. They agree to arrest Sanchez immediately, despite Proctor urging Lucas to wait until after the next day's fight. Lucas refuses, determined to deliver justice. At the pre-fight cocktail party, Lucas confronts Sanchez, leading to an all-out brawl. The fight is vicious, with Sanchez landing several brutal blows. But Lucas fights dirty, clawing and biting his way to the top. He ultimately breaks Sanchez's fingers and arm in front of a shocked crowd. Siobhan, clearly impressed, steps in to cuff the fighter. After the brawl, Sugar helps Lucas back to his place to recover. Proctor visits shortly after, proposing a deal, but Lucas shuts him down. He tells Proctor he knows exactly what kind of man he is and wants nothing to do with him. Lucas adds that while he doesn't despise Proctor, he's also not afraid of him. Proctor, unfazed, warns him, "Maybe you should be." Meanwhile, Clay Burton tracks down Dern, Sanchez's manager, demanding the satchel of money Proctor had paid for the fight. When Dern refuses, he retreats to Sanchez's trailer, intending to leave town. Burton follows him inside and unleashes a savage, torturous assault. The drama escalates further when a worker at the Kinaho Moon uploads a video of Lucas and Sanchez's brawl to YouTube, setting the internet ablaze with the footage. Carrie and Gordon spend the night together, but Carrie seems distant. When Gordon asks what's wrong, she brushes it off, pretending everything is fine. Meanwhile, Lucas tries to steal a painting from the Harrisburg State Museum, but he trips an alarm and gets stuck inside. He calls Job for help, just as Carrie calls to tell him to stay away from her family. Switching between the calls, Lucas slips up and reveals to Carrie that he's on a job. Lucas steals a state trooper's uniform to escape, but gets spotted and surrounded. Just as things look grim, Carrie pulls up in her family's SUV and rescues him. Once they're safe, Carrie makes it clear she only helped to keep Mr. Rabbit from noticing Lucas. The next morning at the sheriff's office, Kat Moody warns Lucas that her brothers are seeking revenge for Marcus's death. State Senator Schumacher also visits. demanding justice for his son's death. Lucas brings in Diva to Carrie's dismay, and Diva identifies Arno Weber as someone tied to Hansen, the man behind the rave and tainted drugs. Lucas and Deputy Yonners head to Arno's neo-Nazi hideout. Arno tries to run, but Yonners catches him and breaks his nose. To avoid prison, Arno hands over a severed hand from his freezer and a video of Proctor and Burton disposing of Hansen's body. Lucas and Yonners arrest Proctor at his home, but on their way back to the station, the Moody brothers ram their truck into the squad car. They aim to avenge Marcus and debate killing Proctor as well. Lucas, however, takes them out one by one, even cutting off one brother's ear. Instead of killing them, Lucas decides to focus on bringing Proctor in. At the station, Proctor's lawyer accuses Lucas of assaulting his client, but Lucas silences him by slamming him against the wall. Later, Carrie takes a bath, lost in memories of Lucas and their escape the night before. Lucas explains to Sugar that he didn't kill the Moodys to avoid unnecessary attention. Sugar tells Lucas he wants in on whatever comes next. Outside the station, Job arrives in Banshee. At the same time, Mayor Kendall stops by to confront Proctor. When Kendall threatens him, Proctor violently chokes him and humiliates him. In court, Proctor pleads not guilty, and the judge grants him bail, citing the lack of prior successful convictions. Proctor, however, learns there's an eyewitness and orders Burton to take care of it. Kat Moody later shows up at Lucas's house. After sharing a cigarette, she warns that her brothers won't stop. When Lucas asks why she's there, she says she doesn't know. Outside, Carrie watches from her car. She smiles when she sees Lucas, but her expression falls as Kat leaves. Carrie clutches a necklace Lucas gave her 15 years ago. That night, Brock keeps watch on Arno at a motel. There's a knock at the door, and as Brock prepares for trouble, the wall behind Arno explodes. Brock loses consciousness, barely registering as Arno is taken away. Job scopes out the route of an armored truck headed to the Kinaho Moon Casino and relays the information to Lucas and Sugar. The three of them seem to be preparing for a heist. A band of marauding bikers known as the Kindred make their way into Banshee. At the annual Banshee Spirit Festival, Carrie catches their eye, and they force her into an alley where they hold her at gunpoint. Sugar sees what's happening and tries to calm the situation. He takes out two of the bikers before he's hit from behind with a pipe. The gang leaves one of their men, Tally, alone with Carrie to give him a moment of intimacy. Noticing the commotion, Siobhan arrives on the scene and finds Tally attempting to rape Carrie. He tries to drop his gun at Siobhan's command, but Carrie doesn't let him, and Siobhan is forced to shoot him dead. FBI agent Dean Xavier meets with the Banshee Sheriff's Department. The FBI has an interest in Proctor's indictment, and since the chief witness against Proctor, Arno Weber, was taken on Deputy Lotus's watch, Agent Xavier was sent to monitor the situation. In their hideout, the Kindred discuss moving on, but their Malcolm Gladwell-reading leader refuses. "We won't leave," he tells his crew, "until Tally is avenged." The next day, they ride through the town and terrorize the festival. Lucas and Brock are caught off guard as the bikers beat their way through the crowd. But Rebecca Bowman manages to stab one of them as he rides by, much to the shock of her Amish brethren. At a contentious town hall meeting, Proctor offers to have his private security guards protect the festival, but Lucas says he has it under control. The Amish elders make Rebecca confess her crime to the sheriff, but Lucas, amused, won't take her in. She was protecting herself. Later that night, she shows up at Lucas's place. After makeout, the two find they have more in common than they realize, both knowing what it means to live two lives. The Kindred continue to stalk Siobhan for killing their man. They slash her car tires at work and confront her at home. After drawing her outside with gunfire, they burn her house to the ground.
I'll fucking kill you!
As Lucas comforts his deputy, Proctor calls him in to show the sheriff that he's found one of the gang members and convince the thug to give up the location of the others. Knowing very well that Proctor wants something in return, Lucas comes to a silent agreement with the businessman. Lucas, armed with police batons, arrives at the hideout by himself. He proceeds to take out the bikers one by one, leaving their erudite leader for last. He has Job deliver their unconscious bodies to Cleveland, where there is a warrant for their arrest. The next morning, Siobhan receives an envelope from her boss containing the Kindred's rings. As the festival carries on peacefully, Carrie and Lucas sit together on a park bench, while her husband Gordon looks on from a building overhead. Agent Xavier investigates Hansen's missing hand, the main piece of evidence against Proctor, unaware that Lucas traded it to Proctor in exchange for the Kindred's whereabouts. To this end, he requests that his superiors allow him to remain in Banshee to learn more. Leonard Wicks Vanderwyck, a former convict, rolls into Banshee and instantly recognizes the sheriff, Lucas, from their shared time in prison. Back in the day, Wicks had been the one to show Lucas the ropes when he first got locked up 15 years ago. Lucas had a rough start. A thug called the Albino, hired by a crime boss named Mr. Rabbit, was out to torment him. Lucas could only find some peace in solitary confinement or the infirmary, where Wicks worked. Wicks had tipped Lucas off about Billy B., the Albino's good-looking boyfriend. Lucas decided to make a move. He scarred Billy's face with a shiv, earning himself 3 months in solitary. Lucas used the time to train and get ready for a showdown. When the moment came, Lucas surprised the Albino, who was holding a razor to his neck, by using the same blade to take him down in the most brutal way. During the fight, Lucas snapped the Albino's neck with a weight plate. From that point on, no one messed with Lucas. Fast forward to now, Wicks gets himself arrested so he can talk to Lucas. The sheriff humors him, taking him out for lunch and even buying him some clothes and a bus ticket. Lucas gives Wicks $2,500 and some parting advice: don't come back. Meanwhile, Proctor, a local big shot, visits Chief Benjamin Longshadow, who's in poor health, to secure the chief's son Alex's loyalty to their deal. Benjamin is worried about a holdout preacher refusing to sell land for their casino project. Proctor handles it himself, visiting the preacher and using dirt on the man's wife, a former dancer at one of Proctor's clubs. He doubles the offer, but makes it clear the preacher won't like the consequences if he doesn't sell. On another front, Carrie's son Max has a severe asthma attack and is rushed to the hospital. The doctors say Max needs major surgery. This puts a strain on Carrie's marriage, with her husband Gordon pointing out she's been acting strangely since Lucas arrived in town. She denies anything is going on and urges Gordon not to give up on her. Wicks, however, doesn't take Lucas's advice. He heads to the casino, blows the money on a prostitute, cocaine, and a night of gambling. When his luck sours, he starts a fight, beating up 2 patrons before getting kicked out. Lucas picks him up and takes him to Sugar's bar, giving Wicks a harsh lecture. When Wicks threatens to reveal Lucas's past unless he's allowed to stick around, Lucas and Sugar handle the problem permanently, dumping Wicks's body in the lake. As all this happens, Carrie, wanting to protect her family, calls her father, Rabbit, and tells him she's ready to deliver Lucas to him by the end of the week. Elijah Bowman, Rebecca's father, meets with Kai Proctor to discuss his concerns about his daughter. Kai agrees to talk to Rebecca. Meanwhile, Lucas, Job, and Sugar are discussing robbing the local casino. Their conversation is interrupted when Carrie calls to tell them she has found a fence for their diamonds. Lucas meets up with her, but she sedates him and knocks him out. He wakes up in a motel room far from Banshee, handcuffed to the bed. Carrie reveals her plan to give him and the diamonds to Mr. Rabbit in exchange for her family's safety. At a local drugstore, Deputy Yawners is buying a pregnancy test for his wife. He encounters 2 thugs in Banshee masks attempting to rob the store. During the chaos, one thug shoots and kills the cashier, while the other lets Emmett go. Emmett, a former college running back, follows them to Banshee High School, where they break in and injure him by clipping his shoulder. The thugs take hostages, including the teacher, Mayor Kendall's wife, and several students who were in Saturday detention, one of whom is Diva. Brock and Siobhan arrive at the school but are unable to reach Sheriff Hood. The situation escalates as news media and FBI agent Dean Xavier arrive. Xavier scrambles a SWAT team from Philadelphia. Lance, the thug who killed the cashier, uses Janie Kendall to issue demands. He tells Brock they need a clear escape within an hour or people will die. Meanwhile, Rabbit and his crew head to the motel. Lucas sees a news report about the hostage situation and realizes Diva is in danger. He desperately tries to free himself before Rabbit arrives. At the last moment, Job arrives, having tracked Lucas's phone, and picks the lock on his handcuffs. Inside the school, Lance and his partner Nathan argue in front of the hostages. Lance tries to take Janie Kendall aside for his own purposes, but is interrupted by news that their transport has arrived. Lance agrees to release 4 students. As they are let go, Diva and her friend attempt to escape. Lance chases after them. Lucas arrives at the school, surprising Carrie. Unarmed, he walks into the gym where the hostages are held and attempts to convince Nathan to release them. Once close enough, Lucas grabs Nathan's gun and neutralizes him. The hostages are freed and Lucas pursues Lance, who is holding Diva at gunpoint. At Lucas's signal, Diva drops to the ground and Lucas shoots Lance dead. Emmett feels guilt over the cashier's death. His wife, Meg, comforts him and reveals she is pregnant, bringing him some joy despite the tragedy. Although the hostage crisis is resolved, the media attention exposes Lucas and Carrie's location to Rabbit. Proctor visits the forge to thank Lucas for resolving the crisis and helping drop the murder charges. Upstairs, Lucas finds Carrie waiting for him. Unsure of her intentions, he pulls his gun, but she embraces him instead. She removes her clothes and offers herself to him. After 15 years, Lucas and Carrie make love again. Elsewhere, Oleg, Rabbit's right-hand man visits a cafe in Banshee. He charms Daria into sharing information about the small town. Carrie wakes up after spending the night and the morning with Lucas. She prepares to leave, but Lucas begs her to stay. She tells him the woman he loved, Anna, is gone. Last night was her way of saying goodbye. Lucas presses her until she admits that Diva is his child. Carrie warns him that if he truly loves her, he'll leave her and her family alone. If he doesn't, she vows to kill him herself. Carrie walks out of the apartment but senses someone following her. Oleg, one of Rabbit's henchmen, forces her into the trunk of his car at gunpoint. Before Oleg can drive away, Lucas smashes the car window and points a gun at him. Meanwhile, Rebecca Bowman is shunned by her family and kicked out of their home after her father uncovers evidence of her secret double life. With nowhere to turn, she goes to her uncle Kai's house. He welcomes her without hesitation. Later, Kai visits Benjamin Longshadow on his deathbed. He tries to show respect to the chief's son, Alex, who greets him with cold disdain. Afterward, Kai returns to his old Amish home to confront his family for treating Rebecca the same way they once treated him. Outside Lucas's apartment, Lucas and Carrie argue about their situation now that Rabbit knows their location. Carrie blames Lucas for coming to Banshee and endangering her family. Lucas counters that even if he hadn't found her, Rabbit would have eventually forced her to face her past. He points out that Carrie has been preparing for this moment by training and stockpiling emergency tools, such as fake license plates. He also reminds her that she lied to her family, not him. Carrie concedes and focuses on protecting her family, even if it means fighting or dying. Lucas promises to stand by her. Cuffed inside, Oleg reveals that he tipped off Rabbit about Lucas and Anna's betrayal years ago. Before Lucas can act, Rebecca shows up, and Lucas offers her a ride to get her out of the way. At her drop-off point, Rebecca kisses him, unaware that Proctor's man Burton is watching. Carrie, still left alone with Oleg, confronts him. She accuses him of always loving her. Oleg admits it, but warns her to run because he's uncuffed himself. The two engage in a brutal, exhausting fight, with neither gaining the upper hand. At home, Gordon searches for clues about Carrie's secret past, realizing she hasn't returned. After tearing the room apart, he finds a locket with a picture of a house. As he lights a joint, Diva walks in and asks what's going on. The conversation is awkward, but Gordon assures her that everything will be okay. At the hospital, Nola Longshadow reunites with her mother and brother after hearing about her father's critical state. However, she shows no compassion for him, telling Alex, "Let me know when he's dead." Rebecca is showering at Kai's home when he storms in. Furious about her visit to Lucas, he throws her onto the bed and calls her a whore.
Fucking whore.
Kai demands that she leave, but Rebecca begs him for forgiveness, saying he's all she has left. The fight between Carrie and Oleg grows more savage. Carrie grabs a broken wooden plank to stab Oleg, but he turns it on her, plunging it into her side. As he lifts her limp body, Carrie uses her last bit of strength to grab the plank and stab him in the back. Both collapse, bleeding out on the floor. Carrie, drifting in and out of consciousness, remembers happier times with Oleg and Lucas. Summoning her final burst of energy, she drives the plank into Oleg's neck, killing him. Lucas arrives home and finds Carrie lying unconscious in a pool of her own blood. He frantically tries to revive her, and when she finally stirs, he picks her up and carries her out. Lucas rushes Carrie to the hospital where she's taken straight to the ICU. While waiting, Gordon confronts Lucas, furious and demanding to know what happened to his wife. Meanwhile, Job and Sugar quietly handle Oleg's body, burying it in a hidden spot. When they return, they push Lucas for answers about his next move. Lucas makes it clear he plans to kill Rabbit. At Kai Proctor's estate, Rebecca swims in the pool as her uncle watches silently, his mind clearly busy with thoughts. Elsewhere, Rabbit is studying photos of Carrie's new family and life. He's planning a major operation in Banshee to tear apart everything she's built. Carrie wakes up in the hospital after a nightmare. Disoriented, she finds Gordon by her side, demanding answers about who she really is. Panicked, Carrie rushes to Max's school, only to find Rabbit's men already abducting him. As the police investigate, Gordon storms into the station and insists on speaking to Carrie alone.
Get the fuck out!
The situation escalates when an FBI agent arrives and takes over the case, which has now become a federal matter. Meanwhile, Proctor asserts his power by dragging Rebecca along to confront Alex Longshadow. To prove a point, Kai stops construction on Alex's casino,
Let's go!
forcing him to bend to his demands. Later, Proctor confronts Lucas about his relationship with Rebecca. After a brutal fight, the two reluctantly settle on a shaky truce. Rabbit holds Max captive. Noticing Max's breathing struggles, he hands over the boy's machine, speaking to him gently, almost like a twisted caretaker. At the same time, Carrie digs up a stash of weapons buried in her backyard. Gordon finds her and is horrified, demanding to know what else she's hiding. When Carrie goes back inside, she finds Rabbit calmly sitting with Diva. Immediately, she draws her weapon but freezes, knowing Max's life is on the line. Gordon walks in and reacts the same way, but Carrie stops him, warning him not to act recklessly. Rabbit takes control, overpowering Gordon and holding a gun to his throat. Then he steps back, pretending to be calm, and suggests they talk like a family. Carrie begs for her family's safety, but Rabbit wants answers about Oleg. When she refuses, he leaves, taking Max's breathing machine and vowing they'll get no mercy. At the tribal casino, Alex questions a gambler named Jeffrey, who owes huge debts. Alex presses him about his connections to Kai Proctor, hinting at some deeper plans in play. Later, Rabbit shows up at the police station to confront Lucas. He calmly tells Lucas this will be their last meeting before leaving. Moments later, Lucas hears guns being cocked. His instincts kick in, and he dives for cover, his heart pounding as chaos erupts around him. In the past, Lucas tries to get an early release from prison by getting close to a counselor. Later, it turns out the counselor was working for Rabbit the whole time. Now, in the present, Rabbit's men attack the police station with gunfire. It looks bad for Lucas, but Proctor and Burton show up and save him. By morning, the deputies and FBI arrive, shocked by the damage. Lucas trades himself to Rabbit to save Max. Carrie, Sugar, Job, and the three deputies team up to rescue him. They attack Rabbit's hideout, leading to a big shootout. Sugar and Brock get hurt. Rabbit tortures Lucas and is about to kill him, but Carrie steps in just in time. She shoots her father after a brief argument.
Goodbye, Daddy.
When law enforcement shows up later, Rabbit is gone, leaving behind only a photo of him and Carrie. Upset by everything, Gordon takes the kids and leaves Carrie. At Proctor's house, Jeffrey shows up and attacks him. Burton steps in to fight Jeffrey. Although injured, Burton kills Jeffrey. Rebecca comes downstairs and is horrified by what she sees. Burton tells her to help her uncle. Later, while Nola and Alex are having dinner, a car speeds past their house and throws out a bloody bag. Inside is Jeffrey's head. Surprised by what's happened, Nola decides to stay in town for a while. Meanwhile, Mayor Dan Kendall is at the casino construction site, sitting on a ledge and talking to his wife. Proctor and Rebecca arrive to send Alex a message by blowing up the casino. They don't realize they also kill the mayor in the explosion. In another part of town, some hunters find the remains of the real Lucas Hood's body, and this marks the end of our story.